Today's topic, oh, you gotta try this game. You'll hate it. Welcome to TableScraps, short discussions about board, card, and tabletop gaming, submitted by the viewing audience and discussed with the viewing audience. Hey there everybody, and welcome back to another episode of TableScraps, the live streaming show here where we discuss a topic about board, card, and tabletop gaming, topics that are submitted by the viewing audience, and we discuss them with the viewing audience. And actually today is a special treat, because joining me via internet wires is good friend Marty Connell from the Rolling Dice and Taking Names podcast. Marty, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I'm excited to be here today to talk about whatever we're going to talk about, but I'm sure it's going to be really good, whatever it is we're talking about.
You have higher expectations than I do at this point. Well, today's topic actually was submitted to us by a viewer on Twitter, David, who posts the question. He asks, what game would you make other people play even if you knew that they didn't like it? And, you know, when I first saw this question, I was like, oh, I would never do that. You know, and I almost put this question aside until I realized I've totally done that. And you were there, actually. So I thought for sure that there's no way that I would force somebody to play a game that I know they didn't like. Because, I mean, that's the antithesis to what we try to do with this hobby. You know, we try to bring people in, be an evangelist. I'm continually, I don't know about you, Marty, but I'm continually trying to gauge. I look at someone and it's almost like a little Terminator scanner goes off. And like all these little things come down on the screen. It's like, this person likes worker placement and they like, this type of game and they like cards and they do not like dice, and then go through and scan my game library to figure out which game would be the best fit. However, the exception to the rule is one time I realized I did do this was at Gen Con last year. We were in the hot games room, and a bunch of media creators were in there. We were got done with the hubbub and commotion of the exhibit hall all day. We're trying to relax, and there's a game that whenever our group of friends gets together at a convention, we love to break out and have hit the table. Do you know what that game is, Marty?
I assume it's Strike.
No. Oh, okay. Oh, that's another exception. I guess I'd make anybody play. I would make anybody play Strike as well, but that's another story. No, it's Don't Mess with Cthulhu, the little card game, social deduction game.
Oh
yeah. And your co-host from your podcast, Tony McCree, was there, and I know that Tony hates social deduction games, but all of us were there. It's like, once a year, maybe, that all of us are together at this convention. And we coaxed Tony into playing a couple rounds of Don't Mess with Cthulhu, even though I know he hates that type of game. And I did it just because we were all there together. And he pretended to enjoy it, but... So yeah, I realized I have been a victim of doing this very thing. What about you, Marty?
Well, I guess I should have gone first because my victim was also Tony. And it's funny that when I was trying to think of people that I can't think of many people that's like, I just don't like this type of game and don't want to play, except for Tony because he's so grumpy about some of the games that he plays. Now, social deduction's an easy one. I know he doesn't like that one. But when we've tested or reviewed games before, make him sit down and play a game like anything that has a little bit of AP to it, analysis, paralysis, he's done. If it's over 2 hours, he's for sure done.
Now, is it because he suffers from analysis paralysis, or he just has no patience for people who do?
He has no patience. He has no patience for anybody that suffers analysis paralysis. And with a game like Detective, where I knew it was going to be, a few hours long, and it's like, okay, you got to check this out. I knew he liked it, but when it gets a little long in the tooth, and if you never played that game, a lot of that game is just sitting around and talking. He's not really into that. He wants to chuck dice, move, and get things going. In fact, he'll get up and start walking around the table and go to another room, go get something to eat. Is it my turn yet? And it's what, but with Detective, it's always somebody, it's never really somebody's turn because you're playing it together. And so I knew it's like, yeah, this just is not going to work that well for him. He liked it okay, but anything that has analysis paralysis or more than 2 hours, I know that I'm going to have to put up with him. And it's so funny that we both picked the same person to have this as an example with.
Yeah, I think
that says a lot. Because I was trying to come up with an antidote with you of games you don't like. And to be honest, Chaz, I can't think of games that you don't like.
Oh.
I can maybe think of a game maybe you said you didn't care for, but I can't think of a genre or group of games that you just like. I don't really care for this type of game.
You know, I like to think that I can find something to enjoy in most any game. You know, and there are some genres where I will like more games in that genre than others. You know, sometimes it's hard to pick one out. But yeah, I very rarely, I think, have a gaming experience where I'm like, this is kill me now. I just can't stand this.
Well, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Do you know of a particular type of game that I'm not a huge fan of? And there's one. Let me give you the name of a game and see if you're good. There's a certain element of the game I don't care for.
Okay.
Quacks of Quedlinburg, or however you pronounce it.
Oh, no, I not only know this, I've experienced this firsthand with you. It's the push your luck element. I have seen you... I have seen you literally get this close to legitimately losing your temper at Quacks of Quedlinburg. It was, yeah. And is it because the amount of risk, or is it just because you feel you personally push yourself too far?
Oh, no, it's the amount. Well, it's the amount of risk. So I'm always running through math and stuff. And so if you've never played the game before, the concept is you have cardboard chits in a bag that you're trying to pull out and put on the board. Some of those chits are considered bad, poison. And there's values on each of the chips. And if you pull out those bad chips and they exceed 7, then your turn ends. And it's not a good thing. So over the course of the game, you're putting more chits into your bag to where there's a lot more of the good stuff in there than the bad stuff. So I know that there's been times when literally I've had, okay, there's 10 chits left in here. I know that of what I have on the board, there's only one that can make me bust and go over 7. 10% chance. Let's go in. There it is. I have actually played Quacks before. Last time I played, I got to play with Rob Davio, and I told Rob, watch this. 1 out of 10 chance. 1 out of 10 chance. I reached in the bag. I didn't even look at the chit. I pulled it, just hood it to him. Did I bust? He died laughing and went, yep, you busted. I went, there it is.
If that was anybody else telling that story, I wouldn't believe them. But it's you. So yeah, I agree. Peter joins us to say, the only time something like this comes to mind is if we played incorrectly or missed something really big last time. So actually, Marty, let me ask you, in your experience, if you have a game where you get the rules wrong and it ruins the experience and people that played it hate the game, when you discover that correction, do you tell the people, hey, let's give this game a second chance, or do you let it just die?
No, I'd actually give a second chance, because then I feel like that I haven't given the game the respect that it should get. And if people did, lots of times I'm the one bringing the game to the table. And if it's one of those things, people just didn't care for it. I try to explain. Actually, I can't think of a good example, but I have done this before where we played a game and we thought, man, something just seems off. Mm-hmm. The next day, it was on our local game group, and we had a chat going, and a guy went and read the rule and checked something and went, oh, we were totally playing this wrong. And all of us went, oh, well, that makes the game so much better. Everybody had enough experience as gamers to realize that's it. That one little tweak that we got wrong makes the game so much better. So luckily, I've got a lot of open-minded friends that if they have a bad experience and then realize the rule is wrong, they're more receptive to play again.
Kabuki Kid joins us to say that her rule of thumb is to never make anyone play something that they aren't interested in. If your friend isn't having fun, how can you truly have fun? I think that's a really good point.
Just to see them go through misery, sometimes fun. Maybe you're a sadist. I don't know.
Okay, I will admit with some of the games that I've been known to pick up at thrift stores, sometimes there is a part of me, it's like, we've got to play this because it looks terrible. But that's an extreme case. That's because I know what we're getting into. So that's I think that's a third example of when I will ruin someone's day with games. Wow, I might be a worse person than I realized. Christopher Hickman, who I know is a person I grew up with, takes the time to comment that he already tried to make me play a game called Damage Report, but I weaseled out of it.
Is that the game? Is that the real-time game?
Yes, has all the sand timers to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, to be fair, Christopher, when you finally did play it with another person, I believe the other person wished that they had weaseled out of it too. So I'm not going to say anything bad about Damage Report. I'm just saying that the experience is that perhaps in this case, you're the one who is the problem here, and it is making people play games that they don't care for. So,
Damage Report is one of the first games that I got excited about in the first Origins I went to, 2011 or so. I remember going with my family. We demoed that game, and we thought this is like the coolest thing ever, having the real-time element. So I still have that on my shelf downstairs. I never play it, but it has sentimental value as one of those things that me and my family sat around the demo table at Origins and tried out.
Yeah. You know, you're talking about games, one game element that you don't like, that, I've discovering that I think real time is an element that I'm finding I like less and less each time I play a game that has real time elements to it. But
did you ever play XCOM?
I did. XCOM was okay because it split it up. But Spacecadet Dice Duel, I want to like a lot more than I find I actually do. I really love the concept, but I don't know. Christian joins us to say, I always try to get people to try a game at least once, even if I don't think that they're going to like it. So, boy, see, that's something that I think is difficult to do. If I know someone isn't going to like a game, I don't usually take the try it, you might like it, eat your vegetables approach. I think that can backfire more than it goes well.
Again, I got somebody, my co-host Tony, that I know there's just a lot of games he doesn't like. Don't Mess with the Cthulhu was a prime example. I said, look, I know you don't like social deduction games, but try this one and just see if you like it. And I remember he was being nice that day, but I remember he said it wasn't as painful as other social deduction games. But I keep doing it because you keep hoping that sometimes you feel like people are missing out on something that they may like. And it's like, just give it a shot, but I guess just after time and time again, people just realize, I just know I'm not going to like that game. Plus you may have a mental block to it.
That is
Hey, Marty, I got this game where you're going to pull chits out of a bag and something bad may happen, but it's fun. And I'm going to go, no.
Okay, so what we've learned today, Marty has a bit of baggage about Quacks of Quedlinburg. So. Fair enough. Trevin joins us to say, maybe if the game is a favorite and it's the one day a year that you play it because it's your only chance to do so, like getting to play the game my wife hates on my birthday or something like that. Ooh, well, that coincides with my example of at Gen Con. How often are, this group of friends that only see each other at conventions, how often are we together? Are we willing to take one for the team to play something that the rest of us enjoy? And are there games that you save for special occasions, Marty?
Typically, yes. So longer games. So when you and I and some of our other friends get together at conventions, we always talk about, before we get together, okay, guys, what's the one game that we would love to play together? And typically it's going to be maybe a longer type game, 3 to 4 hours. Prime example of that was last year at Origins when Jamie Kagi from Secret Cabal really wanted to play Thief. Is that how you pronounce it? Thief. And so I sat down with him and Rodney Smith and some of Jamie's friends, and we actually got to sit down and play it. And that's one of those things that, number one, I would rarely get to play here, and I would never get a chance to play it with, my friends that I only see at conventions. So for sure, there are games that I think that maybe only come out, with certain times with certain people.
We're going to take our last question here from Halo X30, who says, a friend of mine forgot to explain a rule in Monsterlands. I tuned out and left the table before the game was over because the exclusion of that rule just totally made me zone out. And that it kind of reminds me of what you said with Tony, with how he gets up and walks around the table with games that have a lot of AP. He just is out, zones out of it. I try when that happens to me, when there's a game where I know, oh my gosh, I don't care for this game at all, I try not to zone out, and I try to give it my all for the remainder of the game. But that can be very difficult to do sometimes, I think. There's sometimes, tell me, Marty, if this matches your experience. Are there certain groups of gamers that you play with that if they're just not feeling the game, they will start to get more disruptive than other groups and will kind of veer off in left field, and you know that if you don't pick the right game for them, it's just going to implode on itself before it's over?
Yeah, we've already talked about him. Aside from Tony, no. Seriously? Wow. That sounds horrible. He's not here to defend himself, so that sounds really bad. No, so I'm very fortunate that our whole game group, including Tony, is very receptive. Even when halfway through a game, it's like, it's just not clicking with me or whatever, people will still finish out the game. And I try to be the same way. It's just being respectful to the people around you that are playing the game with you too. So I'm very fortunate to have people that aren't really like that.
That's a good point. Okay, so it's fortunate that you don't encounter that too often, but it's unfortunate that we are out of time for this episode. But I want to thank everybody for watching, and you are more than welcome to continue this discussion down in the comments below. What are some games that you actually are willing to force on people even though they don't like it? Or is that a cardinal sin when it comes to gaming, in your opinion? Is that a line you would never cross? If, why, or why not? Let me know down in the comments, and we'll continue the conversation there. But until then, I've been Chaz Marler, along with my co-host for this episode, Marty Connell from Rolling Dice and Taking Names. And Marty, if you want to give a cute sign-off or tell people where they can find you.
Oh, sure. If you want to go check out our podcast, you can do so at rolldicetakenames.com or just find us on uTunes. There's a new thing out there called uTunes. There's uTunes, A-Tunes, O-Tunes, and iTunes. Just pick any one of those. And you can find us on Twitter at Dice and Names. I really enjoyed this. Thanks for having me so much, Chaz. Let's do it again sometime.
That is totally why I had you muted for the first 20 minutes. Okay, so until next time, I've been Chaz Marler with Marty Connell. Thanks. I'll talk to you again soon. We're actually going to be talking about a subject today that, at first, this subject, this is where I'll edit out part of it, so that's cool. Even if
I don't think you should, but go ahead.
But here, I can go click settings and do stream only, and that should fix it for when we go cut to you. So, if you could say some words right now.
I'm going to say some words right now.
And closing credits.